Riders hoping for a smooth sailing start to the week. A big stretch of that line was shut down for part of last week for scheduled maintenance.
This was a planned 4-day shutdown so the T could repair slow zones. It was announced well in advance with free travel alternatives offered to Orange Line riders, but it made for some travel headaches for thousands of commuters.
Now remember, this isn't a first for the Orange Line. It shuttered for an entire month back in 2022, but even so, more work was needed.
The T is under new management, as I'm sure you know. Last week's shutdown is part of a plan to hold a series of brief shutdowns on different subway lines in order to get rid of all the slow zones this year.
Joining us to discuss the plan and more is Phillip, the general manager of the MBTA. Thanks so much for joining us, sir.
Well, thank you for having me here today.
Yeah,
I'm
of course.
excited.
Yeah, so let's talk this through a little bit. Back in 2023, you announced these different shutdown plans as sort of a way to move the ball forward on the T overall. We've seen it on the red line. We've seen it on the green line as well. Do you feel like it's making a difference?
It absolutely is making a difference. In fact, going this process of using these diversions is enabling us to accomplish years of work that needed to be done in a much more streamlined time period. It's also allowing us to do it more efficiently, and actually it's delivering the results. I mean, the Orange Line that we just reopened is a key part of rebuilding the Orange Line. And what we've been doing is we're making sure we're planning and scoping the work properly. Green Line, for example, I know a lot of the riders went through a lot of diversions over the last few months, but 98% of that track is restriction-free. They are now riding along the Green Line the way it should be, and that's what we're going to do with the rest of the system.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you sort of came up with this plan initially. Why did you think shutdowns, that just going forward, getting this done in one fell swoop would be the right approach?
Well, in all honesty, originally I was looking to find ways to avoid those shutdowns. I know how they impact people's trips. But what I saw in the beginning, as we would go in and we would do work, you really can't accomplish much in the overnight period. 2 hours is really very hard to accomplish with the amount of work we needed to do. Early access, you definitely get more time, but we had so much to be done. And as we accomplished work eliminating speed restrictions, we knew we needed to actually do more than just that work. We needed to go beyond those limits to give us more time that the work we've done holds up longer. And what we've seen in areas where prior to the diversions, we're seeing restrictions pop back up. In areas where we've gone in with this type of diversion and actually done more than that, state of good repair work, we're seeing that the work is longer lasting. That's going to give us more time now to perform maintenance that needs to be done. If something does occur, to come in and do corrective repairs more timely and not get back to where we were, where we had 200 plus speed restrictions across the system.
Sure.
Okay, so you were hired about a year ago, right?
Yes.
Happy anniversary.
Well, thank you very much.
And you're still here. That's going well. Some of your goals, you said, were improving safety, reliability, and communication. Let's take a look at a couple of these and start with safety. How do you think you have done improving safety for both the workers and for riders on the MBTA?
Well, the safety part is every day, every minute. It has to be top of mind. And what we're doing is rebuilding the culture to make sure that we reinforce that safety is priority. Talked a little bit earlier about the importance of getting the work done quickly, but getting the work done quickly doesn't mean we need to sacrifice or should sacrifice safety. And that's what we've been talking with the workforce. How do you do the work? How do we better train them? How do we better equip them? And how do we make sure that they have the oversight, direction, and decision-making that helps them do that? We've been really focused on training, and we've been focused on making sure that when we run operations and trains for the passengers, those components are all taken into account. So not only are we doing work differently and making sure that our workforce is safe, we're making sure that the facilities that our riders come into, the stations, with inspections, with the ability to make sure it's a cleaner, brighter environment. With every one of those diversions for the track work, we've been piggybacking or adding additional work to say to that work to be able to make relamping of the stations, clean them, fixing benches, fixing steps, all of those things that enhance safety is key to restoring public trust and just making sure that we are creating that environment that people need to feel when they want to use the system.
You had a near miss a couple of weeks ago on the Orange Line. I know it was being investigated. Do you have any more information you can share with us about what happened there with the workers?
Well, in that case, first of all, happy that the workers are reporting near misses. That's the way we learn from them. But obviously, we don't want near misses. The environment that we work in is very challenging, moving trains. They need to get work done. What we saw there, and it's still being reviewed, is the what we call advanced mobile flagger. We did have a person at the platform speaking with the operator prior to the train moving into the system. What we need to do, and it's still going through the investigation, is the communication between the operator and the flagger that was within the tunnel, and how that process went, whereby the train didn't slow down sufficiently to allow the workers to clear in the manner they did. They did clear, but they needed to rush.
Appreciate that. I want to ask you about where we are. This is a question we've been workshopping, but I'm going to go back to my original version of, I feel like you have taken over a house that we have lived in that is well beyond a fixer-upper, that due to a number of issues has been under, needs repair, has been ignored, bad things have happened to it. We brought you in to help us get the house to a place where we can live in it safely, right? You've been working on these things, identifying problems, putting in fixes. When do you think we'll be at a level where we can live in the house and have a party? When do you think that we'll be able to actually, be fully reliable on the T, except for rare things that are, part of doing business? When do you think we'll be able to be totally reliant on the T to get us where we're going?
Well, right now, we're focused on a lot of the track work, right? That is a foundation for allowing trains to run, new trains, even the old trains. It's the foundation for safe, reliable service. On top of that, though, we need to make sure that the other components, the power systems, with the facilities, all of those are key to it, but we're working on the basics first. The other part was the hiring and rebuilding the workforce. If we don't have a robust workforce, internal capacity to deliver, then we will always struggle. And I'm proud to say that the administration, right up front, made that a priority to rebuild the workforce. We've hired almost 1,500 people last year, record hiring, to allow us to start rebuilding. And then part of that is training and supervision and making sure that they are doing things in a new way of doing business for us. And that's accomplishing the work more timely, more appropriately, and making sure that it's done properly.
You brought up the hiring there, 1,500 or so employees. Where specifically are you putting those employees? Because I'm sure you want to make sure you have the chess pieces in the right place on the board.
Well, a lot of this is focused on frontline employees, operators, bus operators, heavy and light rail operators. It's also focused, though, on the folks that are in there maintaining the system, track laborers and signal maintainers, and all those key positions that are day-to-day, maybe boring from the public perspective, but without them, we cannot run the system, we cannot deliver the service they deserve. And I'm really thankful, again, the administration in the fiscal year 24 budget provided dollars for us to have robust hiring, to be able to work a fantastic contract with 589 that actually enhanced hiring and actually was able to retain people that were ready to leave the agency. All of those things combined enabled us to bring the workforce back up. We're still hiring. We still have more job opportunities for anybody that wants to come work at the T, and is a fantastic place to work. But that goes hand in hand with the basics. We'll be able to, at the end of this year, as we've talked about, restriction-free service. Doesn't mean they won't ever come up again, but as I said, we can tackle those restrictions then in a more timely manner, because then it's just one of a few.
So we can have a small party on the T.
Small one, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Not a
I
small
think
house
what
party.
we will have is individual successes, and we'll build off of each one of them. Even when we are back to where we need to be, there's always continuous improvement. Never rest on the past successes.
Well, and all of this, I'm sure, is just trying to build trust among T users. You mentioned hiring, you mentioned working on the different railways. How much is communication part of this as well, and making sure that, the public is being informed about what's happening on the T?
That's been one of the priorities as well, just being upfront with the public, sharing the challenges that we have, sharing why this work needs to get done, but also then making sure that we deliver on the results. And I think that's important, right? What I'm seeing, despite that these different diversions impact people's trips, when we restore service and those restrictions have been lifted, people are feeling those benefits. It's a smoother trip, it's a quicker trip, and even from the operator perspective, being able to operate the trains at the regular speeds they should be makes it much more manageable for them, and allows us to now, as we start to restore the service back, have regular scheduled service where the trip travel time is what's expected. And that'll allow the frequency to improve. That will allow the experience of the rider to be better. It's restoring the service so we can restore public trust. And I really do believe when we have those components, people will start to know not only is it a viable option, it's going to be the preferred option.
To get back to that full restoration, though, you've put a price tag of $24 billion or so on that. Are you confident that that money is ultimately going to be there? Do you have any doubts that it won't be there?
Well, that $24 billion is to just put the system back to a state of good repair. Even if we had all $24 billion today, we couldn't do that kind of work in a single year. What we need to do is whatever dollars we get, and I know there's a lot of needs across the whole state, it's my responsibility to manage those dollars to deliver maintenance, state of good repair, but also build for the future, right? It's a combination of doing those. Stabilize the system, make sure it's reliable, and serving the public as they need, but then it's the dialogue with the different communities and the different businesses to make sure that we're building out a system that supports their needs. Community stations, I know there's a lot of discussions on where do we take the system next, and that's important. Zero emissions, decarbonization, getting people out of their cars, and supporting housing and economic development. Transportation is vital to all of that, and that's part of the excitement of being here.
Let's talk about some of the intersections of those things. Revenue coming in for the MBTA. At the same time, there's a reduced fare program for low-income riders. Are people taking advantage of that? Are you seeing that impact your revenue? And is it something that you hope that you would expand or that the governor would announce they're expanding?
Well, the low-income fare program right now is in the midst of the final part of the public process. We're really excited about it because this will enable those folks that need to be able to use the T, want to use the T, that can't afford to use it, the ability to make that a choice. This is going to serve a population of almost maybe 60,000 new riders that we anticipate. And it's also going to be able to enable us to support those folks that want to live and stay in Massachusetts, know that transportation is feasible for them. It's a key thing. There's proposed money in the fiscal year 25 budget to support this. We're really excited about it. And it's all tied to bringing riders back. And not only just the riders that currently use it today, but those riders that need to use it.
Is there an income eligibility for that ridership?
Yes, it's going to be based on what we anticipate 200% of the federal poverty level. And that will enable those folks to have, and this is a big thing, 50% discount across all modes, commuter rail, light and heavy rail, bus, paratransit, ferries. It's a fantastic opportunity for us to, again, facilitate quality of life across Massachusetts.
Staying on the free ride or low income or low reduced ride, Mayor Michelle Wu, of course, has 3 buses that travel through Dorchester and Mattapan. Those are free through March of 2026. Cambridge has announced their proposal for a free bus line. Do you have an opinion on whether reduced fare is better, free fare is better? Is there a mix that you're looking at?
Well, certainly a partnership with the local, the city of Boston, Cambridge. If there's those opportunities to support those types of pilot programs, I welcome them. It enables us to observe how it affects ridership. I think at the end of the day, though, right now, my responsibility is to balance a budget and for me to be able to ensure that we have enough operating dollars to continue the level of service. So I think to be discussing those longer-term things is getting ahead of myself. Really, right now, it's safe, reliable service. I have a lot of work to do to tighten our belt still, because as I go to the legislature and seek dollars to support us, they need to know that we are spending taxpayer dollars wisely and that we can deliver safe, reliable, robust service. So I think those discussions are things that certainly will always be talked about, but right now, I'm focused on safe, reliable service and restoring public trust and ridership.
We're going to switch to a topic now. I'm going to let Matt ask a question about something that both of you, I imagine, had the same surprise reaction to when you saw, which is the Mattapan trolley. As a Boston native, I always love it. Matt, you want to tell me how you felt when you saw the Mattapan trolley?
It was like traveling back in time. I mean, boy, I think it's 31 people can sit on a trolley at any given moment. It was really special to sit on it, but there's been a lot of debate recently over whether or not this is rapid transit or if it's not. So I guess when you take a look at the current Mattapan trolley as it sits, is it rapid transit?
Well, you know, I look at this as a transit system as a whole, right? And one of the things that we did when we prioritized work, we actually knew, again, going back to the basics, I have to fix the track, right? We made the Mattapan area one of the first priorities to restore. Now, if I remember correctly, we may have eliminated all 22 of those restrictions, which is important. Again, that allows those trains now to run at regular speed, full speed, and we're continuing to focus on the whole corridor, the rest of the Red Line, but also those stations, and how do we improve that? Right now we're going through a whole capital investment plan and reviewing priorities, and I know that transformation of the Mattapan line is important, and we're focused on making sure that we make good decisions, continue restoring service, and support those communities that are looking to continue to promote housing and grow the economy and make sure that we have sufficient service to support those.
We've got time for one last point to make, and I think the Charlie cards might be the best thing to talk about, is that a lot of people, they still got to pull out that card, they got to load money at a station. Where are we in sort of moving this into the 21st century and putting it on our phones?
Well, I'm excited about that because right now we have the automated fare collection program that is currently being developed. If people go on the system, they could see them in our stations, the subway stations. They could see them on the buses, those readers that are there now. And they say testing phase, I believe. And since late last year, there's been a small internal group that have been testing, myself one of them, contactless payment. And that is the ability to use your phone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, and use Google Pay, Apple Pay, those types of things, and just tap your phone. It's also going to allow in the future the ability to just take a wireless credit card and tap that as well. But it will create accounts where people can either set up accounts or just use that system. That's coming this year. I'm excited about. A lot of the riders, particularly a lot of the students, tell me, you know, it's time for us to get into the 21st century. And we're really excited about that because that will ease a rider's need to be able to pay and get onto the system.
Phillip with the MBTA, thanks so much for your time, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, exactly right.